We've got a particularly large gallery today. Can I just remind everyone that this is a council meeting. The only people that can speak will be those invited to speak around the table or the people doing the deputations this morning. So can I just ask everyone to exercise restraint and keep things in good order. We apologise about the air conditioning this morning. We will have some bottled water arriving shortly if it hasn't arrived, and that'll be provided up at the back of the room there. So please help yourself to water when that arrives. Thanks very much. Do we have apologies this morning? No apologies. Thank you. Could I ask everyone to be upstanding, please? I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. While we're standing, can we please observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect for the members of our community who have recently passed. We wish their family and friends peace and comfort during this challenging time. Thanks very much. We'll go to item 6. Do we have any declarations of any material personal interests / conflicts of interest by councillors or senior officers? Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. In regards to item 16.2, bringing home for the age, my mother's a resident of that home in the dementia ward. I don't believe that I've got a conflict because of that. So I'll be attending and participating in this motion unless there's a councillor here please speak up and I'll leave. I don't believe I've got an interest in this matter.
Is this related to this one? Yeah, Councillor Dillon.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I also have in-laws, mother-in-law and father-in-law in Corinna, next door to Councillor Cardew's mum. I also don't believe I've got a conflict though.
Very good.
Leave it up to the council.
Yep. We'll go Councillor Hodge.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. In regards to 16.2, Corinna home for the age, previously I used to declare a conflict of interest as I was a director of the board, but at the 16th of October this year at the AGM, I did not continue, so I don't have a conflict.
Thanks very much. Councillor Hayden.
I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 12.1, the Tolga Industrial...
Councillor Hayden, can I just, while we're on 16.2, can I just wrap that up? Councillors, are there any concerns about Councillor Bilney or Councillor Cardew staying for the meeting?
And from me.
No? Not from me. No? Okay. Thank you. Councillor Hayden.
So I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 12.1, the Tolga Industrial Estate and Rail Trail Development Plan. My husband's uncle and aunt, Raymond and Cheryl Fitzgerald, own a block of land that backs onto the rail trail. As they may receive a personal gain through the outcome of the report, I intend to leave the meeting while this item is discussed and voted on.
Thanks, Councillor Hayden. Councillors, any more declarations? Very good, thank you. Right, we'll move on to confirmation of the minutes. We'll go to the minutes of the 26th of October, the ordinary council meeting of the 26th of October. Can I have a mover and seconder that those minutes reflect a true and accurate record? Councillor Billney, Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Carried. We'll do matters arising of those minutes before we move on to the next minutes. Matters arising of the minutes of the 26th of October. So we've got Councillor Clifton requested an explanation on the below line item, local suppliers. Councillor Clifton, did you have a response to that one?
Thank you, Mr. Eno. I'm happy with the response. For those people who can't, it's very difficult to read, but we have been short of staff in our planning services area, and this relates to the recruitment of consultancy purposes to fill in whilst we recruit those staff. So I'm happy with that explanation. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. We also have one there. Councillor Hayden requested information. Councillor Hayden, are you satisfied with that? That's from the last meeting, that one. Is that satisfy you, Councillor Hayden? We've also got one. Councillor Hodge raised a concern from a member of the public about Main Street North.
No, I'm happy with the response, so I'll just read through. Basically, the concern from the member of the public was about a street sign saying Main Street North in Bolger, where Main Street goes from east to west. The answer is the street signage has been installed by the developer, and the planning department are investigating to have it removed or changed. Council officers have spoken with the developer and their consultants, and the sign will be corrected accordingly. So that's all fine.
And the next one is also yours, Councillor Hodge.
It was about welcome to Tolga sign, similar to all the other ones around. The question was, when were they getting that sign? I probably haven't got a date there, but I'll further to our budget deliberations, I'll worry about that then.
Very good, thank you. Any matters arising on those minutes from the floor this morning, councillors? No, thank you. So that brings us to the Planning Committee meeting minutes of the 9th of November. Can I have a mover of those minutes, please? Councillor Hodge is moving the minutes, a seconder. Councillor Wilts is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. And matters arising? No matters arising, thank you. Right, that brings us to item 9. So we have two deputations this morning. The first one is from Christy Gilvere regarding RAL 23/0020 RAL 1 into 4 lots, 121 Welsh Road, Barine. So could I ask Christy Gilvere to come forward, please, and come up to the table? There she is. Yeah, you by yourself, Christy, today?
Okay, I want the
Oh, yeah.
application as well.
You're welcome to come up if you like. Okay, Christy, when you're ready.
Thank you very much, councillors, Mr Mayor, for allowing us to speak this morning regarding an application that's before council for a decision on today's agenda. The officer recommendation is for a refusal of the application, which seeks approval to subdivide to create 4 lots on a 15-hectare property on Apparee. Before you, we've prepared a couple of brief notes, and it doesn't look brief, and I apologise for the number of pages. The first 2 pages are the critical pages for today's discussion, followed by 4 maps, which have been prepared by our office to illustrate lot characteristics in the locality around the subject site. So just in terms of context for this deputation, Council is requested to make a decision on this application at today's meeting. Council officers have recommended refusal. On behalf of the applicant, we submit that an approval subject to conditions is properly granted. The application is for reconfiguration of the lot to create 4 lots on land at 121 Welch Road, Breen. The property has a current size of 15.27 hectares. The proposed lots will be 3.8, 3.5, 4.1 and 3.7 hectares respectively. The site is bordered by Lake Tinaroo, Welch Road and the Road Reserve, as well as neighbouring properties which appear to be used for rural lifestyle purposes. A residential dwelling and associated outbuildings are present towards the northern end of the lot, which slopes towards the lake. The site is within the rural zone, the agricultural land precinct within the TRC scheme, and the application is impact accessible. Pursuant to the Planning Act and related regulatory requirements, Queensland Planning System is intended to function as a performance-based system. Acceptable outcomes, including minimum lot sizes, within development codes are only one way to achieve a performance outcome. Strategic framework considerations can prevail to the extent of inconsistency, particularly for impact accessible applications, and importantly, other relevant matters may also be considered by Council in accordance with the legislation. In terms of the issues in this application, there are a range of grounds for refusal that have been included in the officer reporting on the application. The 3 key areas of allegations of non-compliance from an officer perspective, and our understanding of those 3 key areas of issue are broad conflict with the scheme, subdivision in the rural zone below the minimum lot sizes, fragmentation of good quality agricultural land, and water quality issues for Lake Tinaroo as a result of additional effluent disposal systems and the location of those systems. In the materials that we've provided this morning, I've just included one of the number of responses and engagements we've had with council officers, which seeks to respond to the areas of conflict that have been raised during the course of discussions with those officers regarding this application. The applicants engaged us to go to some fairly extensive trouble to try and respond to all of the issues that have been raised by council officers. The council officers have been great in terms of communications regarding those issues. At the end of the day, it is our submission that the application can properly be approved without dramatically offending the conditions of the scheme. The site's been confirmed as not containing good quality agricultural land by a suitably qualified consultant. That wasn't me, by the way, it was someone who actually knows land. There were a range of issues that affected that designation or that decision, including climate, lot size, topography, a lack of access to water, which is really important, particularly on this site, given its size, and soil quality more generally. Within the superseded planning scheme for the Atherton Shire, the site was also classed as not good quality agricultural land. If a rural activity such as cropping were to be established, it is our submission that there would be significant reverse amenity impacts on closely proximate residential land users. And in fact, water quality may be detrimentally affected by those activities. Those activities would likely involve spraying of pesticides and fertilisers, in addition to dust movement, sediment control issues. Just given the topography of the site, these would be very problematic to manage. Sunwater will not and cannot supply water to these allotments as well, in terms of any sort of significant usage required to sustain rural activity. The proposed effluent disposal systems will comply with PO1, the performance outcome, within the Water Resource Caps and Overlay Code, as the systems are to be set back to the greatest extent possible from the high water mark in Lake Tinaroo, and they are of a style or a type that is suitable for this area and has been demonstrated as being able to comply with water quality objectives. There are extensive detailed responses to all assessment considerations that have been provided in the primary application submission, the response to the information request issued by council officers, and the further information that we've provided in response to the engagement we've had with council officers over the last few months. By letter dated 16 October 2023, we sought to summarise key matters in the assessment framework, and that correspondence is the correspondence with attachments that have been provided, appended to the materials we've given you today. We've given you maps. There's 4 maps that we've prepared to detail lots between 1.7 and 7.4 hectares in the surrounding vicinity from the subject site. The subject site is shown in red or orange, depending upon how good my printer was yesterday on that material, and the smaller allotments are illustrated in yellow on those maps. It just illustrates quite clearly, certainly in my view, that there is not a distinct pattern of a particular lot size in the area that we're talking about. There is a vast number of smaller lots that have been created historically in and around this site. That doesn't include the rural residential allotments and the smaller allotments that are very close to this site. For these reasons and for all of the reasons we've previously provided to council officers, we're respectfully requesting that council should consider this project for an approval subject to reasonable and relevant conditions. My client Kay would like to say a few words if you have a moment, please, just in terms of the efforts that she's gone to try and work with this land in terms of some sort of agricultural production.
Thank you very much for seeing us today and including us in the meeting. With this, with my property, I have tried literally everything to make it a viable agricultural land. I keep coming up with the issues where I don't have a good quality water supply, which I can't take from the dam, and the water supply I do have will be from a pool, and at this stage it's enough where I live to substantiate my house. I've tried with the land to grow things. It doesn't happen. The soil quality just isn't there. It just isn't there. I just wanted to confirm that I have tried everything to make it a viable agricultural land, but it just hasn't worked out. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Thanks for your time, council.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thank you.
Is that your question?
Okay, we'll go to our second deputation. So could I ask Kathy Kilpatrick and Peter Touch to come forward to talk about the rail trail?
Good morning. I wish to thank Mr. Blair and the CEO for this opportunity to speak today. My deputation is about putting a human face to this debate, a plea for sense in a world that is slowly decimating our environment. This could be our last chance to get this right and keep our green space intact. I'm here today to represent our local SAOS group. This isn't working. Yep, it's just going one back to the other. Okay.
There it is.
I'm here today to represent our local SAO riding group, a group of fit and healthy seniors who meet twice a week and ride, usually branching out from our rail trail. Then they go to a local cafe for a coffee or a meal. This brings regular wealth to our local eateries. Our group of riders can be up to 35 people. No one could argue about the physical and mental benefits obtained by being a part of an active and community-spirited group. I heard it said that the rail trail is just for the benefits of this group, but this is far from the reality. They may never have ridden locally because of the unsafe roads in this corridor, if not for the corridor. I also represent our T4 group. Peter Tuck, their coordinator, is standing with me today. T4s is a voluntary group who have, without cost to TRC, planted and attended to over 4,500 trees along our rail trail, from the Hasty Road to Manthey Road. I also represent my grandchildren who will grow up enjoying our rail trail, our elderly who use the trail, our children who happily ride to school, to and from Tolga, our runners and walkers, some with their dogs, the many cyclists, the disabled on their scooters and wheelchairs, the workers, and the mothers with prams. The list goes on. I have pursued backcountry trails throughout Australia and overseas, so I do feel I have some inside knowledge of what is expected from a rail experience. Our rail trails should have positive outcomes and not be downgraded. It should be cherished. The trail between Atherton and Tolga is becoming aesthetically pleasing as our plantings grow. This should continue. The TRC, through its Inclusion Advisory Committee, aims to create an inclusive and connected community where all people are valued and recognised for their work. However, the community was not made aware of this want to encroach on our rail corridor, and most are still fully not aware. This should have been out in the open 5 years ago. Our rail corridor is like a spine. It leads to routes in other areas of beauty in our shire, which have become safely accessible because of it. Tourists are becoming aware of our trail and recognising its worth. Disability scooters can come to and from Tolga and return safely after visiting or shopping. From the trail you can branch out and do the Tolga-Kirai Loop, all farm roads with incredible views of our region. Some stop off at pubs along the way for a cool drink or a meal, or at one of our local cafes. They can ride the Trass Road Loop, which branches off the rail trail. They can ride safely to Barney Springs, a hidden gem, a very historical natural spring hidden off Mapey Road. They can ride to Hasty Swamp. They can ride to Mareeba all off-road. In fact, the Mareeba Shire should be commended for their forward thinking of their end of the rail trail. They are working towards improving it towards Walkerman, and our T4s have been recognised by Mareeba Shire as a source of knowledge for their plantings after seeing what we have achieved. They can ride up to the mountain bike park, all off-road. Surely everyone can see the influx of bicycles on the back of cars in our district. Is the council aware of the new 430 kilometres trail, which is attracting riders from across Australia? The Great Northern Cycle Trail starts and finishes on our rail trail. It travels through 7 of our major towns. I personally have been in contact with 36 of these riders who've come from Tasmania, Victoria, South Australia, New South Wales and South East Queensland, specifically to ride our area. They all started either in Atherton or Mareeba on the rail trail, paying for meals, accommodation, bicycle repairs, etc. This trail is now known amongst long-distance cyclists Australia-wide. Next year, during the cooler months, more will come. Just another reason to have a rail trail we can proudly showcase. I attended the TRC meeting of the 28th of September, where a spokesman for a Tolga industrial estate acknowledged the need for a safe trail rather than use the highway, and went on to say that some of the businesses were frustrated with the lack of maintenance and care for the surrounding land. It should be noted that some of the businesses backing onto our rail trail have let their fences and infrastructure look nothing short of an eyesore. If the encroachment onto our rail trail happens, won't that bring these eyesores even closer to our trail users? The spokesman then went on to ask, why was a tree planting program in 2023 approved overriding proposal in negotiations for unfinished business in 2021? In good faith, the T4 group, which stands for Tableland Trees, Tracks and Trails, obtained the approval and were in fact ready to plant after the purchase of 950 trees from the TRC nursery at a cost from a grant of $3,000. The information of those in attendance today, the T4 group was awarded the Community Service Award at the Australia Day Awards on Monday, the 26th of January. On Thursday, the 29th of January, 2 days before we were to plant up to 1,500 trees, we were told by Council to hold all voluntary work. our effort of preparing the beds for the trees was all in vain. Ironically, on the 1st of February, Peter Tuck, our T4 coordinator, was acknowledged on the TRC Facebook page for its Community Service Award. It seems bizarre to win this award, then be told to stop all planting. The spokesman then went on to ask also that tree planting needs to be rejected or at least restricted in order to protect infrastructure, and perhaps follow the Department of Agricultural model that allows clearing 10 metres away from existing boundaries. As the trail doesn't encroach onto agricultural land behind the industrial estate, these guidelines are not valid for this area. If the rail trail is left as it is, and the trees that are planted are those that have been suggested by TRC, this won't be a problem. Another of the suggestions from TRC was that the trees will create a security issue, as undesirables will hide in the trees and wait for unsuspecting users. I can tell you for a fact that the most sought after trails are those that are tree lined. They become such a shady, picturesque experience to complement the area. Another of the suggestions from Council and the officers was that the stormwater problem in the Tolga industrial estate needs to be addressed, and this was the reason for encroaching onto our rail trail. A quick ride along the rail trail shows that at this time of the year, when we can get huge storms, there's still no improvement in the drainage from many years ago. In fact, at the new end of the real estate, the industrial estate, the drain coming under the rail trail is very substandard and has been since the new development. One wonders how this was ever accepted by council. The big drain coming out of the industrial estate halfway between Manthe Road and Beantree Road is still the car dump it has been for the last 20 years. Surely these drains at least need clearing if there's a drainage problem. It is convenient that it's been brought up with this application to encroach onto our trail. These drains have all been reported in the past with no outcome. We have one chance to save our rail corridor, as once this group of councillors votes against our community asset, our rail trail will be diminished and will never be the beautiful green space it could be. As passionate members of this vibrant and beautiful area, as members of our strong community, one must wonder why the wants of the few ratepayers takes priority over the whole of our ratepayers in this shire. For a gain of only approximately $17,000 rates a year from the industrial estate ratepayers and a huge outpouring of council funds to set this up, one must wonder why this ever came to place in the first place. We look forward to collaborating with TRC to ensure that our trail continues to be used by the community and visitors. We ask that the rail corridor between Tolga Industrial Estate remains unchanged, and we can continue beautifying our state-owned trail. Thank you for listening.
What I'd suggest we do, councillors, is I'd like to set aside the standing orders so we can bring this matter to the beginning of the meeting, so we can deal with this matter first, given that we've got so many people here for this particular item. So I'll move a procedural motion that we move the 12.1, the Tolga Industrial Estate and Rail Trail Development Plan. We'll move that to the front of the agenda so that we deal with it next. Those in favour?
Mr. Point of order, Mr. Yeah, do you, perhaps to the CEO, do you need a seconder for that?
No.
No, thank you.
Those in favour?
Excuse me, we do need to move, if you're going to set aside the standing orders.
Yes, that's in the mayor's resolution. That's what I was proposing. So those in favour of setting aside the standing orders and bringing 12.1 to the top of the agenda. Carried.
Need to record, Mr. Mayor, that I didn't vote with you.
Well, if you'd like it recorded.
I always like these things recorded, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
You got that, Jackie? Okay, so that brings us to 12.1. So, sorry, Councillor Hayden, I think you've got to, yes, yeah, we're going to start 12.1 now. Uh, 12.1, the Tolga Industrial Estate and Rail Trail Development Plan. Councillor Building.
Yep, I'd like to move the officer's report and the motion of option 1 to be debated. Yeah, so I'll be looking for a seconder.
Councillor Bilney's moving option 1. Do we have a seconder? I'll second that. Thanks, Councillor Bilney, you've got the floor.
All right. Through the chair, look, just firstly, I'd like to acknowledge quite the expansive work undertaken by the General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment. The report from September, as well as this report, quite expansive, a lot of work has gone into it. Any decision to allow expansion by landholders into the rail trail is complex and requires careful balancing of economic, environmental and social factors. It is my view that the wider community that will be affected by this decision has not been consulted sufficiently to capture a broader appetite for what is being proposed in this report. Only the industrial estate owners and members of the Rail Trail Advisory Committee have had the opportunity to make comment at this point. Over the past months and more recently, there has been a gathering momentum against the expansion into the rail trail, as evidenced by the spike in emails being sent to councillors by concerned tablelanders.
Yes.
I would like to acknowledge the I'd like to acknowledge the importance of the Tolga industrial estate businesses, and I'm acutely aware of the value of the business that they bring to the community. I also acknowledge the potential and economic contribution that rail trails in communities like the Tablelands also make, which is mirrored around Australia. Locally, we are yet to unleash its true potential. Under option 2 and 3, there will be a process of relinquishing the sublease, then a possible conversion to freehold, which is yet to be determined or approved by TMR, therefore raising additional uncertainty to the landholders. I note that TMR expects suitable planting in the form of shrubs and trees on both sides of the rail trail. In past, there has been objections to this. Will support be given by council and landholders to the volunteers such as Flora, T4, SAYOs, etc. in their endeavours to beautify the trail, or will they be further delays whilst this protracted process unfolds? The report states that it could take up to 2 years or more. So does that delay continue? Under option 3, and noting that council has not discussed nor agreed to or even needs to expand its depot, yet there is an expectation that ratepayers contribute between $150,000 and $217,000 without any budget allocation or consideration and the absence of a defined community benefit. TRC is expected to apply for the rezoning. Will this be subject to community consultation? And hypothetically, what would happen if overwhelmingly community were against the expansion of the rail trail? For me, expansion does not provide benefits to the community, and therefore I strongly support option 1, which is no expansion.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bilney. I'll talk to that as well. Councillors, as I've said before, this is not in the community interest by any measure, and beyond that, it is in no way reflective of a strategic or progressive way forward for this community or this council. The very high value placed on the rail trails, not just by our community, but by communities across the entire country, is very strong and growing. This is evidenced locally by the people here today, by councillor inboxes, by social media, and nationally by numerous documents that present evidence of the love and value for rail trails. The view that rail trails are just used by a few cyclists is not the reality. They are used by hundreds of people, from walking, from families, from commuting, by people with disabilities, for people with pets, and so on. They are really loved by their communities. A few weeks ago, this council received a letter from the Minister for Transport and Main Roads advising that council's Priors Creek development had been awarded $1.5 million to enhance the cycle network and public amenity of the rail trail at Priors Creek. Following that, this council received a letter from the Deputy Premier for $900,000 to further enhance the Priors Creek rail corridor. And here we are on the very same rail trail, a few kilometres to the north. Council has engaged with a group of adjacent business owners to slice and dice the rail trail to allow expansion of private land into the rail corridor. Councillors, this corridor belongs to everyone in both the TRC and the state. It's a much loved, publicly owned land. The idea that these landholders, these business owners that neighbour the rail trail have a greater claim or given right to take over public land, for me, is very challenging. What gives this council the right to facilitate and underwrite that that transfer or acquisition? I'm certain the community never considered this when they elected us in 2020. The scenario we're in now has council using ratepayer money to process and facilitate the closed and private transfer of an ultimate freeholding of public land. Councillors, this is not something I will ever support. I urge every one of you to consider community first and foremost ahead of a few private business owners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, anyone like? We'll go Councillor Wilkes, then Councillor Cardew.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, through the chair, I acknowledge the great work that has been done. I'm going to say I'm disappointed in the whole process, disappointed in the amount of basic insults, innuendos, suggestions, the condemnation that myself and fellow councillors have been getting should this proposal get up today. I totally understand the passion and the dedication of everybody here associated with the rail trail. We're at a situation where we have to make a decision, and it's certainly not going to be an easy decision. We have two opposite sides that have had an opportunity, in my opinion, to meet, and that hasn't been forthcoming. I've been told that should I support the expansion of the rail trail, that I am currently experiencing my one and only term as a councillor.
Yep.
Well, so be it. I'm not intimidated by that. I'm not concerned by that. I am here to make a decision on all of the community, not just a select few. Numerous emails that we've been in receipt of suggest that all we are looking at is giving consideration to a select few. I wonder if the industrial estate owners are saying exactly the same, that should we reject this proposal, that all we are doing is considering a select few who use the bicycle trail.
We have also been reminded on numerous occasions that we are elected to represent the whole of community. Totally agree. I need to have an explanation of the definition of what is the whole of the community. Are not the business owners, their employees, the employees' families and all of the custom that comes to those businesses, are they not members of our community as well? Are they not ratepayers and taxpayers like all of us in this room? Persons in favour of the expansion have called the bicycle fraternity as being selfish, in that there's no desire to reach any form of compromise, agreement or association with the TIE. That's also a bit disappointing because the opportunity has been there. I don't believe for one moment that your organisation is being selfish. I totally applaud the dedication and commitment and the love that you have. I have been working with your committee, and perhaps after today that may not be a satisfactory outcome for you. I'm disappointed also in the apparent misinformation that has been spread. Even today, the innuendo is there that we are closing off the rail trail. There is a great opportunity for both to work in harmony. The industrial estate owners have given an undertaking that they want to work with you people, not against. Peter Tuck, at a public meeting a little while back, suggested that this is a great opportunity to grab hold of this and we can beautify it and call it our own. Something's happened with that translation. I get it. I support all forms of bikes, push bikes, using the rail trail in the manner that it's been described. And Kathy, thank you very much for your deputation. I also support our local industries and the massive financial commitment to the Shire. Although the level of economic input into the Shire from the industry subject of the proposal is not known, many of the operatives have been part of the economic development of the Shire for many years. The proposal provides an opportunity for those businesses to increase their output, employ more staff and continue to provide ongoing economic development within the Shire. I have already acknowledged the financial worth of the cycling fraternity and the popularity, so I'm in no way detracting from the value to the community, both in health and financial contribution. The resolution today, if successful, will carry with it a cost to the ratepayer. Council is also a property owner within the TIE, and as such will have to contribute to the costs associated with the expansion, in the same way that other TIE owners will be required. And for clarity, should all owners associated with this proposal not be committed to the proposal, it will fail and no expansion will occur. We councillors have been challenged by persons opposing the proposal over the suggestion that we're not supporting and not considering members of our community. That is extremely disappointing. That's why we put our hand up in the first place, to give consideration to all of these things. I believe the proposal is an opportunity for continued growth within our industrial area, for the increase in employment, an opportunity for community groups to work with the TIE owners, council and DTMR to effect a positive outcome for a section of the rail trail and to take ownership of it and make the shared area something special. We are not going to close, and it has never been. At the public rally a few months ago, that there was photos a little while ago, one of the landowners was at pains explaining to people that we were not closing the rail trail. The information didn't get there. I thank the industrial estate owners for the respectful manner in which they've approached this matter, and also thank the community groups for their passion and commitment. I thank the GM for his undivided dedication to the reports and the work and the countless phone calls and emails, and DTMR for the advice. Having said that, I support the resolution as proposed, and I will be opting for option 3.
Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Listening to the deputation, I can't help feel that you think we're closing the rail trail. Simply not the case. I want to be very clear. It's not my intention, nor that of this council, to take away or reduce the ability of recreational users using and enjoying this section of rail trail between Manthey Road and Bentry Road in the way that's being used now. There is more than enough room within this corridor to accommodate everyone. The way I see it, everyone is a winner. The riding, walking path still remains unrestricted and not diminished in any way, with the ability to have controlled and properly designed landscaping and beautification along the trail. The industrial landowners can expand their business operations, which can further contribute to our local economy and employment of our local residents. It will reduce the amount of ratepayer funded maintenance required by council to maintain the corridor. It will help.
Quiet, please.
It will help with the long-standing stormwater issues within the industrial estate that has been ongoing for a while. This section of the rail corridor, in my mind, is probably the most problematic section we have in terms of access, maintenance and drainage there is within the whole length of the corridor. And I believe if everyone works together, this section can be transformed into something better. And let's not forget, approximately 1.5 kilometres away, there is a multi-million-dollar development in progress to significantly enhance the cycling and recreational experience for everyone. I will be supporting the proposal for the reasons I've just stated above, and I believe it's a win for everyone.
Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. If at any stage people can't hear me, I'm quite happy to stand.
Stand, thanks.
Stand. I first of all want to point out that, like many of you who peacefully enjoy your retirement by riding your bikes and exploring the rail trails, I came out of retirement and put my hand up, not for ego purposes and not for any other purpose, to try and make the kind of contribution that you're making to our community. Some of the letters that I've received are just appalling in their intent, and the one that I want to draw out, or that I want to draw out, for those people who are here, and you would know some of these people who have written and insinuated terrible things, I will not hang my head in shame after today's decision. I will not hang my head in shame after today's decision, and the people who write those sorts of things should consider themselves having made an appalling contribution. Get the personal stuff out of the way now. I hold the view that the rail trail is a significant community asset.
Councillor Clifton, you need to be talking to us.
Oh, you can hear me, can you, Mr. Mayor?
You need.
If I were blind, would I need to look at you?
Address us.
If I, no, right,
Address us.
oh, sorry, I'm trying to make sure my voice is heard.
Make sure you look at me.
Oh, you want me to look at you, Councillor? I hold the view that the rail trail is a significant community asset, but that its use must be considered in the context of the various differences that rightfully exist in our community. Firstly, the railway line was one of the first industrial links to Atherton. An industrial link to Atherton, and the developments such as the cattle yards that preceded the Tolga Industrial Estate and the industrial estate have been important elements in regional development. Industrial elements in regional development. The idea that people who have contributed to and worked within the estate for the last 40 years are somehow not part of the community, and Councillor Wills made it very strongly as well, is anathema to me. I don't accept that at all. They are just as much as part of the community as I am and as you are. I strongly believe their views as community members must also be respected. And I doubt that there would anyone who would challenge that basic principle. Secondly, for me, there's nothing sacrosanct about the rail trail. Its former use was an industrial transport corridor, and now its future use is emerging. It is not a one or the other situation. It is not a one or the other situation. I support the principle that a community asset can be used by differing sections of the community without adversely affecting each other's use. Thirdly, the landholders of the industrial area properly raised the matter of leasing or buying part of the rail trail back in about 2018. And despite initial discussions and costings, council officers did not advance the project by further consultation. We've seen some of the pictures that are up on the screen. I'm addressing you, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm turning backwards and forwards, of our poor maintenance of the whole of that area. Continuing poor maintenance. We are not without shame in this context. We haven't done our job very well. We need to do it better. We refers to the meaning of council. Council officers did not refer the issue to council for its consideration at the 2018, as far as I'm aware, until it didn't surface until it became problematic, when unapproved plantings of vegetation began to occur on the trail. None of us councillors, we were taken down to the trail and saw that there was plantings going on there. They were not approved, and you recall, if we talk about it in our context here, that we immediately at the next council meeting immediately approved because they were not approved. And it's understandable that they were not approved, bearing in mind the letter of support you got from the council, where it said express support for the plantings, express permission for the plantings. That was a misunderstanding at best. When unapproved plantings of vegetation, the first thing we did was approve the plantings of vegetation except for the rail corridor, which had become problematic. A council filled the gaps in. The landowners queried this activity, which brought the land issue into the light. Landholders were left with an unfulfilled expectation which needs, in fairness, because they are members of the community, to be concluded. Council's faced with making a decision making in the wider interests of the community. We are required to be open and fair in that decision. And for that reason alone, I will never hang my head in shame. I have personally replied to all but a very few small handful of those representations I have received, some of which have been rational and thought-provoking, whilst others have been insulting and threatening. My responses have not been confrontational, threatening or aggressive. We must not lose sight of what we are talking about here. And I haven't said what I support yet, I support option 3 when it comes up after option 1 fails, if it fails. I support council 3. 1, because, get it back to the reality and away from all the drama. The rail trail will remain open to all who want to use it over the 1.3 kilometre, the 1,300 metres adjacent to the Tolga Industrial Estate. The rail trail will remain open. 2, an area of 1.3 1,300 metres by 15 metres or 1.95 hectares will be earmarked for sublease transfer to the landholders at their expense. Many of us aspire to live on much larger pieces of ground than 1.95 hectares of ground, and that's what we're talking about in reality. Retirees, walkers, cyclists will continue to be able to pursue their recreational activity as they do now and expand upon it because the trail will be open. 4, the landholders will be able to make investment decisions to enhance their business prospects and continue to be a vital part of the tableland economy. The reality of the tableland economy is that agriculture and its associated industries are the biggest area of regional product, and will remain that for a long time. I cannot imagine the tourism in the way of bike riding and things of that nature will suddenly overwhelm that. The second biggest piece of regional product for the economy in the tablelands is health and aged care, which is just below agriculture. The other elements of it, looking forward to the future, are well below that. So the perspective finally is the rail. If this sliver of land is lost to the rail trail, it will make no difference other than a visual effect on that bit of the rail trail until the trees are planted. I suggest we bring it back to that level of thinking. I don't support option 1, which is on the table at the moment. I support option 3. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hodge.
Okay, thanks very much. I don't intend to go over what all the other councillors have said, but I agree with their points. Now, when you're elected as a councillor, you have to make sure that you do everything what is best for the community. And in this point, and I respect the cyclists here, everyone here today, put their point of view across. That's your right. And it's your view, you should be able to. This council has always supported cycling. Now, it was only some time ago that I think the Mayor and I moved and seconded $80,000 for the cycling strategy. So it's not against cycling. But what it is that this can be a shared area. It is a shared area now, and it should continue to do so. Another point is that it is not our asset. It is TMR's asset. And the business owners have been negotiating with TMR even before this council come in 2020. And I've been negotiating with TMR and the business owners to come up with a proposal that suits everyone, that's for the economic development of our region. It's for jobs. I mean, I know, look at the Tolga Hotel. I know a lot of people didn't like that either, but if you go to the Tolga Hotel, I was there on Tuesday night, 9 young women who have jobs there since then. Some of them going to university in Cairns. Without that, they wouldn't have their jobs. So it is my point that it should be a shared area. It is 30 metres wide. You cyclists don't need 30 metres. I suggest what we do is collaborate with everyone, the cyclists, the industrial owners, the council, and bring this to fruition and make it a great space to live for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hodge. Councillor Billney, go the last call to you as the mover of the motion.
I haven't got much more to say. I said it in my opening remarks. It is community benefit, but by approving expansion, I can't see how there's benefit community in doing that. And I'll just restate my position where option 1, no expansion, is my preferred position.
Thank you.
So we've got a mover of option 1, a seconder of option 1. I think everyone's had their say. Those in favour? That's defeated. If that can be recorded, thanks.
Yes.
Just call for a division. Thank you. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation with option 3 included.
Councillor Cardew is moving option 3. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hodge seconding. Councillor Cardew.
Well, I think much has been said on this, Mr. Mayor. Just need to put to the vote.
Councillor Councillor Cardew has moved option 3, seconded by Councillor Hodge. Those in favour? Yeah, that's carried. You can have a division on that one, Susan. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you very much.
We'll go to, we need to get a net.
Wouldn't bother me, it's not my business.
Annette, please, yeah.
Oh, she's out of here.
Oh, she's here. There is water in the kitchen. If people need water, it's in the kitchen, just back there, bottled water. Okay, councillors, that brings us to back to our original first item, which is 11.1 TRC 2023-12 Priors Creek Development Stage 1A. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Clifton's moving the officer's recommendation, and Councillor Wilts is seconding. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm foreshadowing an alteration of words. I'm not sure, a minor alteration to the wording of this motion. I'm not sure how I should put that forward.
That's fine. You're just moving the motion and just state the additional words, councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. In the first clause, it says award the contract for the construction of Priors Creek Development to Northern Civil Earthworks.
Oh, okay, there's a different one.
Just trying to bring that up.
Yeah. The term, after separable portion B, it has the term if ordered. I'd like to extend that to be if ordered by resolution of council. By the inclusion of those words by resolution of council. I'm not sure how whether that needs to be admitted.
That's your motion. That's the other motion before us, councillor.
So we've got an amendment there from Councillor Clifton. Councillor Wilts, you were seconding that. Are you happy with that amendment?
Yes, I am.
Is that the final amendment, Councillor Clifton?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So we've got an amended motion with the mover and a seconder. Councillor Clifton, would you like to talk to that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I fully support going ahead with the Priors Creek development. I have and have always had some reservations, not about the project, but about the issue of the issue of private funds. And I've always said that I don't want us to go beyond the initial contract stage until we're firmed up what kind of private investment is going to be put in there. We know that we have put out an expression of interest. We know those expressions of interest are currently out for development, and I think, but I'm not sure, that we expect to receive those developed submissions back early in December. I'm simply not sure of the date. So what I acknowledge the need to go ahead with contractual activity, but I think we need to, council need to be in, beyond the first stage, be in the position to resolve to go to the next stage once we have the expressions of interest finalised, to look at the industrial, the private investment that might be in hand. By putting that in, I have no, should not infer that there is any lack of confidence in our CEO and the way he would, and his officers would handle the contract. It's just that a big contract at $6.6 million should be made public through the council meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Could I just go to you, Angelo, for your thoughts on the amendment?
I'm quite happy with that amendment. Just a question of bringing it back and making it public, Mr. Mayor, that we're proceeding with separable portion B.
Yep.
But also securing for us the pricing that's been offered subject to rise and fall, of course, and the passing of time, and just for us to bring back to council, as Councillor Clifton said, any private investment, and obviously the outcome of any grant applications would then form part of that a subsequent report to order the commencement of portion B.
Very good, thank you. Councillors? Any more on this one? Okay, councillors, we've got a mover and seconder of the amended motion on the screen. Those in favour? Carried, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. It's a very significant milestone in the project. And I congratulate Angelo and the project manager on the work that they've done to keep us on a very tight schedule to have these matters before council before the caretaker period kicks in. Thank you.
Councillors. Very good, thank you. Okay, councillors, that brings us to 11.2, Agricultural Advisory Committee, 20 October 2023. Do we have a mover? Councillor Clifton. Seconder, Councillor Wilts. Councillor Clifton.
Yes, we bring that up on the screen. It's not, yes, move council to receive and note the unconfirmed minutes of the Agricultural Advisory Committee. Ms. Huntley, do you have the action that I was foreshadowing after that? Contained, contained within the Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting were two recommendations from the committee to go forward to council for its consideration. As chair of that committee, I've decided to only put one of them forward at this time, and that is, and I'm just waiting for it to come up. But there it is now. That I'm putting forward as well that the council adopt the Agricultural Advisory Committee recommendation to commence discussions with the Department of Transport and Main Roads to extend the road train limit from Mount Garner to Ravenside. I'm not sure whether that should be a separate motion or it should be included in the first motion.
Might be safer, Councillor Clifton, just to adopt the minutes as the first motion.
Thank you.
And then you can then move a second motion.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if we just adopt the unconfirmed minutes of the 20 October meeting to start. So Councillor Clifton's moving those minutes, seconded by Councillor Wilts. Those in favour? Carried. So Councillor Clifton is now moving a second motion. I'll leave you to talk to it, Councillor Clifton.
Thank you, Mr. Yeah, I do apologise to councillors for doing it this way. When I put forward my motions, I didn't complete it properly, so I do apologise. At the Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting, a number of the landholders.
We might just try and get a mover and second, and
okay.
then you can talk to it. So Councillor Clifton's got another motion up there on the screen. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Wilts? Okay, Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. At the Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting, landholders discussed and resolved that it was time to extend the road train limit. Road trains come into Mount Garner. We have a developing agricultural area in the Inner Hot Springs in that Upper Herbert region. We have large crops that are grown there. We also have and that's principally cotton at the time. That cotton has to be transported to Emerald for ginning at the time, but for the current now. We also have a lot of fodder crops that go out from, loads of fodder that go out from this area here out west. They all have to be changed at Mount Garnet. Now the roads have been upgraded from Mount Garnet to Ravenshoe. The bridges have been upgraded from Mount Garnet to Ravenshoe. If we sought and were successful in having the road train extension to Ravenshoe, it would include our Herbert River agricultural development area and would enhance our ability to be the agriculture in our region. So I recommend it to you.
Councillor Hayden.
Probably I'll ask some questions about this. First off, where would the pad be in Ravenshoe? Because main roads have actually upgraded the one in Mount Garnet with toilet facilities and showers for the truck users. And if we're talking about the cotton coming out of Inner Hot Springs, it actually goes to Emerald, which is actually towards Mount Garnet, which is where the truck pad is, not Ravenshoe. And if the fodder's going out that way, that's where it's going. So I don't see why we would have this and where would it go in Ravenshoe. So to me, I mean, I know it's not our decision, but when you think about it, Mount Garnet that they're unhitched and they go to Lutan when they come from Mariva, so out west. So I sort of don't know where we're going to allow this truck pad to go or the consequences of it all. So yeah. And then it's actually got to get to the Palmerston if it's going to go down the Palmerston Highway through the Miller Kew Range and all that. I'm just curious of where it's all going to go. We haven't really had that discussion.
Thanks, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Carter.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I guess it's just not going to service as the immediate Herbert River catchment there with the crop and stuff. It's for the broader transport fraternity to be able to get a little bit closer to where everything's coming from or going to. It will also be just that little bit further in the link to get road trains down to the coast, down to Meridian Harbour, which is something that this council's been pushing for since we've been elected. So it's just a little bit more of that link taken up if we can get it to Ravenshoe, just one step further to the coast. So I fully support the motion.
All right, councillors. Anyone else like to talk on this one?
Well, I'd like to ask my question answered. Have they discussed it at the advisory committee where they would put this road train pad?
Yeah,
And
well,
how far would be extended?
that'd be a question for Councillor Wilkes,
No, I've had discussions, through the chair, I've had discussions with some of the local farmers who have given indication that they have a proposed site which is in front of the old telecom depot. Telecom, is it? Energex, Ergon, whatever it is up there, on the highway just before you get into Ravenshoe. But any discussion, of course, that's not going to be our decision. Like, that's DTMR and the National Heavy Vehicle. But the reservation that I have is there would have to be substantial upgrade to the road infrastructure between Ravenshoe and Garnet, because a lot of it, to me, is substandard for that. But I totally support the process of bringing it to DTMR's attention for their discussion and ultimate comments.
Councillor Hayden doesn't really answer your question, but
It's not ours.
I expect Councillor Hayden that would form part of the department's consultation. I can't speak for them, but I expect it would.
councillors, any more questions on this one? Councillor Clifton, do you have anything else?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Councillors, those in favour of the motion up on the screen? Carried. That brings us to 11.3. Priors Creek Steering Committee, 20 October. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge. Councillor Wills. Councillor Hodge.
No, I'm happy with the minutes. Nearly all the councillors were there, so plus our officers, so happy to move it.
Councillors? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 11.4.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move alternate motion. That's applicable, please.
Yeah, just hang on, I'll just read it out. 11.4, K Island, reconfiguring a lot, one lot into 4 lots. Lot 1, RP 724474-121, Welsh Road, Barine, RAL 23/0020. Councillor Hodge.
Yes, I have an alternate motion to move. That's where it comes up. The alternate motion is that the development permit for reconfiguring a lot, in brackets 1 into 4 lots on land described as lot 1 on RP 724474, situated at 121 Welsh Road, Barine, be approved, subject to the following conditions. And I think all the councillors have been given a list of the conditions. So I'll wait till I get a second.
Alright, so Councillor Hodge is moving the motion, Councillor Cardew is seconding. Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much. We've all heard the presentation this morning from Ms. Gilvere on behalf of Mrs. Ireland. So I won't go into that too much. They're the real technical planning things. I'm not a planner. So I'll just go to one point of that. It says, pursuant to the Planning Act 2016 and the related regulatory requirements, the Queensland planning schemes tend to function as a performance-based system. Acceptable outcomes within the development codes are only one way to achieve the performance outcome. Strategic framework considerations can prevail to the extent of the inconsistency, particularly for impact assessment applications. Importantly, other relevant matters can be considered by council to assessment and in accordance with the Planning Act 2016. And we've gone through the, I think the consultants have issued their advice on the issues that our planners have advised. In my time in planning as a councillor, previous to that, the old way of, there was 3 ways. It was either as of right with council approval or prohibited. But under now the Planning Act, there is nothing that is prohibited. It is purely its own performance. So I believe that what Mrs. Ireland's consultant has given us, I'm happy to be able to move that this application be approved. Thank you.
Councillors? Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. But I'm also happy with this motion. It's only a very small lot, 15 hectares, thereabouts. As we've already heard, very poor soil quality. Water is very limited. You can't take it out of the dam, so you have to rely on the bore. So yeah, it's not taking away anything from the good agricultural land. Where you don't want to be cutting up good agricultural land. So yeah, I'd probably support the proposed motion.
Councillor Wills.
Yeah, just very briefly, yes, thanks through the chair. Yeah, a few of us had on-site visit. It is a beautiful location. The soil quality to me looks extremely poor. And it's not as if this is going to be busted up and put on the retail market, as I understand it. If this is successful, it will be going to family members of the applicant. So it's not as if it's just going to hit the open market at this point in time.
Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I support the motion Councillor Hodge has put forward, but I don't. We mustn't put aside our officers' recommendations lightly, and I applaud the fact that they put forward a strong alternative point of view. But what's caused me to deviate from it is that I think within our planning scheme 2016 is well and truly out of date. If you look at and we recognise that it is out of date and it's time for a revision for it. Officers are bound by our planning scheme, and sure, they can look at performance-based matters, but in the end, the black letter of the planning scheme is a powerful influence. The fact that if you take a look around at that area, stand on the hill at that of Mrs. Island's land, and make any kind of judgment as to whether it's agricultural land an area in the midst of agricultural land or not, doesn't sort of stand the pub test. I stood there and looked around 360 degrees. There was one horse grazing in a paddock next door. There were no cattle. There was no sign of agricultural improvements, current modern agricultural improvements, although it's defined as an agricultural zone for the purposes of the 2016 planning scheme. In fact, consequent decisions of council have meant that it's surrounded by a number of smaller lot areas, and has become and probably, in my view, won't sustain in a revision of the Planning Act its classification as agricultural land. The second thing is that I, for one, have been a very strong proponent of the idea of the protection of agricultural land, the right to farm. But the right to farm, my assessment here is that the right to farm doesn't exist. That land is poor ground. You only, and I say the pub test, apart from the deputation put forward by Ms. Gilvear, it is poor quality agricultural land that would not sustain any kind of economic agricultural life. So I think, but I do applaud our officers for fitting within the strict guidelines that we have established for them, and I don't wish I don't disregard their views lightly. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Clifton. Councillors? Councillors, look, I'll be talking against this one, and no respect to the proponent or the submission that's been put in. I've heard what council has said, but we need to be particularly careful of rural land parcels around Timaru. It has much greater sensitivity than other land parcels that are just in land-bound areas. It's not our job, councillors, to ensure that everyone can have a waterfront lifestyle or residential block on Lake Timaru. That's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to preserve the integrity of the agricultural land. And I know when you look at the site, you can see all sorts of infringements on agricultural land that have occurred in the past. We can't be responsible for what's happened in the past, but we can be responsible for preserving the integrity not only of the rural land that this property is, but the rural amenity of the neighbouring land. I mean, you know, when we think of farming, it's not just broad scale agriculture with cropping and or feedlots, or there's greenhouses, there's mushroom farms that could operate perfectly fine in this rural location. So you might not need the high fertility soil, but you do need the rural amenity to have the space. Otherwise, if you have the continued encroachment of residential properties up against rural properties, councillors would all know what happens when you increase that differing land uses in close proximity. Council gets started getting complaints, then the guy who's had his farm there for 50 years can't farm because his cattle are creating odours for the neighbours. So these are the things that happen. And this one is particularly important because it's on Lake Tinaroo. Lake Tinaroo is an agricultural reservoir. It's there for primary industries. It does have recreational uses, but they're a secondary use. So it's our duty to always preserve the rural size land parcels and the rural amenity, because that's our greatest asset of our community and our economy. Just how we do this is very clear if we read closely the detailed rationale of the planner's recommendations. Of the 14 dot points made by our planners, 12 start with the proposed development conflicts with. Number 13 starts with the proposed development does not comply. And 14 states it's not possible to apply a lawful development conditions that facilitate the development. Okay, so the planners have got a very clear picture of what is appropriate there in maintaining the integrity of our rural land. If we look at number 10 in the planner's recommendation, they talk about rural integrity, they talk about fragmentation, they talk about alienation and degrading land. And it also says there that the development does not protect the catchment of Tinaroo. So, you know, these sorts of applications around Tinaroo, it's a death of 1,000 cuts. You know, we might approve this one today, but then in 5 years' time, someone may come along and want to split up one of the blocks that's already been cut, split that into two. So then a future council will be having the same discussion. They say, oh well, but if you look over there, someone else has already done it. Like, we can't look back and see that decisions have been made in the past and justify those decisions for decisions that we make today. The final thing I'll say, councillors, is once an application like this is approved, two things are guaranteed. The land will never return to agriculture. It's gone forever. And the second thing is we'll have an increase in these types of applications, especially around Lake Tinaroo, going forward. So that's guaranteed to happen. But yeah, that's my view, councillors. I respect the applicant and what they'd like to achieve, but it doesn't fit with the rural integrity of the tableland in this council, in my view. Certainly in that location. Play every ball on its merits, but in that location it's highly sensitive, and we need to preserve it. Who's the Councillor Hodge was the mover.
I'll wait until my right to reply, please.
Yep. Councillors, anyone else wanted to talk? So we'll go to Sean. Thanks.
Through the chair, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to touch on a few other points associated with the application and its assessment. Noting it was an impact assessment, went for public notification. We did receive submissions on that. We received 5, 4 in objection, 1 was neutral. And I think the points have generally been touched on in the discussion on the floor, but for officers, it is the policy position, and it's not just council's policy position as expressed in its plan scheme. It's supported by state policy through the state planning policy and the regional plan, which reinforces our position and where council officers have got to their recommendation. I think we acknowledge the reporting provided by the applicant. We don't disagree with the reporting that says it's not productive land. We're just saying the alternative for the use of the land as rural residential or lifestyle is not supported by the policy. Look, the Mayor has pointed out the grounds of the officer's recommendation. I just want to touch on a few of those just generally and briefly. Correctly, it will result in the permanent loss of rural land, and I guess that is highlighted by the importance of the primary industries to our region. The land use pattern and lot arrangement in the locality immediately surrounding, and I know plans are being prepared and submitted today, demonstrate that there is some that are consistent with what's being proposed, but equally there are some that is consistent with how the current lot arrangement is. And I guess the final point is further development of the Lake Timaru catchment and what we're trying to achieve with water quality objectives. So I would urge councils not to disregard that policy framework.
Just add one comment to it. I don't think it's relevant. The future ownership shouldn't be given any weight.
No, that's all. I'm just making that point.
Thanks very much. If there's no more councillors wishing to speak who haven't spoke, we'll go to councillor Hodge.
Okay, so thanks very much. We'll go to, in the conditions, we'll go to attachment 2, which is to approve that and to have the conditions. There has to be a statement of reasons under the Planning Act 2016 and the Planning Regulation 2017. This notice is prepared in accordance with section 63(5) and section 83(7) of the Planning Act 2016 to inform the public about a decision that has been made in relation to the development application. The purpose of the notice is to enable public understanding of the reasons for the planning decision, specifically having regards to the relevant parts of the planning scheme and the assessment benchmarks against which the application was assessed, and any other information, documents or other material council is either required to or able to consider in this assessment. All the terms in this notice having the meanings given in the Planning Act 2016. The details are RAL 23/0020, 121 Welsh Road, Marine, lot 1 on RP 72 Dalford 74, reconfiguring lot number 4. The scheme is the Tablelands Regional Planning Scheme 2016 version 4. And the approval date is today, the 23rd of November 2023. And the reasons for the decision. The application is considered to be generally consistent with the present provisions of the Tablelands Regional Council Planning Scheme 2016 version 4 and can be approved subject to reasonable and relevant conditions. The applicable assessment benchmarks are Part 6, 2.22, the Rural Residential Zone Code, Part 8, 8.22, Bushfire Hazard Overlay, 8.23, the Environmental Certificate Overlay Code, 2.8, the Water Resource Catchment Overlay Code, and Part 9, 9.42, the Landscaping Code, 9.43, the Parking and Accessible Code, 9.44, Reconfiguring the Lot Code, 9.45, Work Services and Infrastructure Code. And finally, the reasons for the decision. The development application is approved, and the reasons for the decisions are based on the following. 1, the development creates lots that are acceptable for the location. Lots take into account the site constraints. And 3, the lots are of significant area and dimensions to accommodate the existing dwelling house and any future dwelling house on the proposed lots 11, 12 and 13. It's saying that now I would like to be moved.
So we've got a mover and seconder for the motion, and councillor Hodges just given those reasons. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? It's carried. Can I have a division on that, thanks, Jackie, please?
So there's not to get and encourage you?
No, sir. It was councillor Hodge, councillor Clifton, councillor Bilney, and councillor Cardew. Yeah, so 4-3 of them. Yeah, we'll take a morning tea break, everyone. We'll come back at 1:45, so you've got 10 minutes. Okay, we'll reconvene. Thanks very much. 12.2, Natural Asset Management Advisory Committee recommendations. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bilney and Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Bilney.
Yeah, through the chair. The last meeting that we had of NAMAT was on the 31st of October. Special meeting. We did invite councillors as guests. 5 out of 7 turned up, which was really good for them to take that time and hear some of the issues that the committee have raised. Out of those issues, there were 4 motions, and the first one was there's a draft natural assets strategy for 23-33 in progress. I'm led to understand that it's going to be ready for come to council either next meeting or in January of 24. So in the coming months, we should get to have a look at what that draft document looks like and endorse it. The second part was there is also a vegetation management policy in draft format. It was suggested that we let the committee members of NAMEC have a look at it, pass their eyes over it and make comment before it comes back to council for future consideration. The third part was that the committee members wanted to be kept updated from decisions of council in regards to NAMEC issues. That's the third motion. The fourth was confirmation about the recent endorsement by council to have painted wildlife signage, etc. at Curtin Feed, but also during the discussion we had a guy from the Department of Transport attend the meeting via Skype, I think it was, who suggested that there was opportunities for councils to pilot different things to highlight the importance of our wildlife, etc. And it was unanimously agreed that the committee wanted TRC to be up front and centre if the opportunity arose for those. And finally, the fifth part was that the committee wanted to pass on their thanks to those councillors that attended. They really appreciated the time that was taken to hear their concerns. So that's the basis of the recommendation. Also attached with the minutes of those meetings and what's been occurring in the last few months. So that's pretty much where I'm at. Tudor, I don't know if you've got anything further to add on that. Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Bilney. Any questions on this one, councillors? Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder. Those in favour? Carried. Okay, the 12.3 has been shifted into confidential, so we'll deal with that one later on. So that brings us to 12.4, the road naming policy review. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bilney is moving the officer's recommendation. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hayden. Councillor Bilney.
I have nothing further to add. This come to council last month, I think it was, thereabouts. I was supportive of the policy then. I'm supportive of the policy now.
Thanks very much. Councillor Hodge?
Yes, I have an alternate motion to move. So it'll be an alternate motion, so I'll just foreshadowing that.
Yeah, foreshadow it, yeah. Yeah, so councillors, anyone else like to talk to, we've got a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendations. Anyone else like to talk? Councillor Clifton?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The existing list of Aboriginal names in the road naming policy seems to me, well, I'll just read out what I've written. The existing list of Aboriginal names is not differentiated by either language or cultural groups. And that means it would be possible to select a name which does not belong to the area of the TRC where it's planned to be used. And if that were to happen, such an occurrence would be insulting. So so in our road naming policy, the list of Aboriginal names that are there are not delineated by cultural group. We know we have a number of cultural groups in the Atherton tableland, and we know that if one of them was selected, it could be placed in an area that didn't, that word, the language of that word didn't belong in that place. That would be I think that would be an undesirable outcome. So I don't support the document as it's put forward. I will be recommending that and support of a motion that Councillor Hodge is going to put up later. I do strongly believe we need to give recognition to Aboriginal people, the people who originally were here in this region, but we need to be very, very careful about the way we do it. And an encyclopedic list of names without an indication of which language they belong to and where they might be used seems to me to be fraught with difficulties. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor Billney.
Yeah, through the chair. Can I just ask, if a particular name is put up for consideration, what is the processes that officers then go to make sure of the appropriateness of that name in a particular area, for example?
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor. At the moment, there are lists of names which have been pre-approved, as well as of themes which have been pre-approved for the respective districts. What that means is that if a developer, for instance, chooses a name of one of these lists, the decision is delegated to the Chief Executive Officer to approve that name. However, there is also a provision in the policy which states anyone wanting to use First Nations road names must contact traditional owners of the relevant area and request a name or word from the relevant First Nations language which relates specifically to the location of the road. This has been put in the policy with the express purpose of avoiding situations like the ones that have been described by Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillors, any more to talk on this one? Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder of the officer's recommendation. Those in favour? That's defeated.
Thank you.
Councillor Hodge.
One new motion has been put up there now. So it says that the council adopt the amended road naming policy. And I'll speak to the amendments once it's been said.
Do we have a seconder for Councillor Hodges' alternative? Councillor Cardew is seconding. Councillor.
Okay, thanks very much. So with the consultation with a fair few of the Aboriginal First Nations people, and I recognise two of the ladies who come here today, spoken to them. The other one, in my view, will that list, the way it is, will cause division. So what I've said is the amendments are as clause 4.5 is that the Aboriginal place names and language words be removed and replaced with B again, the amendment. Aboriginal family names submitted by members of the Aboriginal community for the cultural area where the road is located. And furthermore, the First Nation names and words be removed from the policy. Now, the rationale for this is that the list of First Nation names and words may cause difficulty amongst the Indigenous groups in the TRC region because there is a number of recognised language groups with their own recognised areas. The selection of a name or a road outside the cultural would most likely cause unnecessary angst and be culturally improper. Family names nominated by the respective Indigenous family represents living recognition of members of the community and who have contributed and lived in the area. Whereas a list of mixed Indigenous names may have some appeal, notwithstanding the difficulties of placing names in the right location, a list of purposely nominated Indigenous family names has the effect of identifying and offering respect to past and present people. And as with veterans, Indigenous cultural names should be sought and nominated in the recognised process. So what I'm doing here is taking this out. The Aboriginal people, the First Nations people think that list will cause division. And that's the last thing I want to do, or this council should do. So I've asked them and they agreed with this. So I'm happy to move it. Thank you.
So Councillor Hodge, how long did this consultation take?
Well, I beg your pardon. What did you say to me then? I just spoke to my motion. That is not for you to ask me. It's up now the councillors to do it.
Yeah, but I can ask a question about your consultation.
Yeah, well, when I had my store, people were coming into the store or out the front. I'd asked them. These two ladies, I don't want to mention names, but they come in, showed them the policy. That's it.
So your consultation was done in your store?
In the store and outside the store. Yeah, I just asked people to get their views, like I do with anything. I do.
Point of order.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor.
you know.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. It seems to be unseemly to be arguing backwards and forwards across the table. May I respectfully suggest that you offer your point of view?
Well, Councillor Hodge, it's not the role of councillors to do consultation with our traditional owners.
Point of order,
I
Mr.
beg
Mayor.
your pardon. Where the hell do you think you
Mr.
are?
Mayor, we can talk to anyone we wish to. Would you?
How dare you say that? I speak to everyone. Doesn't matter what issue it's about. I have the right to talk to anyone I want. I had that discussion the other day. Just leave it at that one. Can follow up on
Look, I think this consultation is completely inappropriate. I mean, you know, we've got 9 traditional owner groups in the TRC.
That's correct.
So if we're going to do consultation with our traditional owners, we need to do it with all of them, and it needs to be managed by officers. This is a very sensitive area, and it should be managed by officers. I don't know that councillors should be facilitating the consultation from their shop front.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. That is the report that the officers have done and put to council. Now it is up to council to deliberate and either pass it, amend it, or whatever. That's our role. If you don't like it, well, I mean, put your point across, fine. But don't, you know,
Well, look,
don't change the rules. That's what I'm saying.
I'll certainly be supporting the officer's recommendation.
Well, in the same way, Mr. Mayor, in supporting the previous motion, did you support the fact that there was no recognition to the 9 language groups? Do you feel comfortable with that?
I felt comfortable with the process that our officer explained.
Talking about the process.
When they go to use an Indigenous name, we have a process involved so that there's checks and balances in place. That's always going to have to be there. So I'm satisfied that process is there.
The point of this is, any Aboriginal person, First Nation people, can put a name forward to council for approval. Not dictating a list. That's the point. They should be treated just like anyone else. They should be entitled to put a name forward if they want, not dictated with a list. It's wrong.
So councillor Hodges moved a motion and seconded a motion. Tudor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to add for transparency purposes, the policy as it stands at the moment, it has names coming from all ethnic groups in the tablelands, which have been proposed in the previous policy and have been have continued to exist in our list. For instance, District 2 is a good name, is a good example where the first pre-accepted name is Anning, which is a First Nations family lead, followed by Bekji, which is Chinese market gardener, followed by Bunker, by Florenzi. So I think we have a balanced representation in the needs of family names of people living in the tablelands who have lived in the tablelands. Thank you.
All right, we've got a mover and a seconder. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I made my first point about differentiating between language, the 9 language groups that we hadn't done in the previous policy. The proposal to invite Aboriginal family names to be added to the list of potential names recognises that some families may not want to be put forward. So the initiation, the beginning of it, belongs with the family in question. Secondly, the identification of the right cultural location, because it's put forward by a family, is simplified and is clear. Thirdly, the identification of the correct cultural group, because it's put forward by a family, is also simplified and clear. And the important aspect is that it gives recognition to local Aboriginal people in the same way as the current policy recognises pioneers and veterans, by encouraging their family name and their cultural group. Naturally, I see this as being foreshadowed or followed by a community engagement exercise with each individual group in each one of the individual areas. Councillor Hodges' amendment demonstrates sympathetic recognition of Aboriginal community members. There's nothing sympathetic about a rock or a tree, the Aboriginal name for a rock or a tree, without any cultural attachment to it. And secondly, it leaves the decision for inclusion to individual Aboriginal people and their family members. And when coupled with the Aboriginal cultural area signage, which will be installed throughout the region in 2024, gives very good recognition to the important place that First Australians have in our collective history. I speak very strongly in favour of Councillor Hodges' proposal.
Councillors, anyone else like to talk? We have a mover and a seconder for Councillor Hodges' motion. Those in favour?
Okay, thanks. I have a division on that, thanks, Jackie. Carried.
Okay, that brings us to item 12.5, the Mount Garnet Waste Transfer Station. Councillor Hayden?
I would like to have an alternative motion, which is a bit different to what we have as officer's recommendations now. I think I did give it to Jackie. It's not. Yes, I did. Peter sent it yesterday. Okay. So I'll read it out. So what I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I'm actually asking that the council receive the report titled Review of Options for the opening of the Mount Garnet Transfer Station and proceed with option 3 of the summary table 4, and that the transfer station be open 3 days of the week and completed by the 29th of February.
January.
Isn't it a leap year? Next year?
We'll have to read it. I don't think I've said it.
So Councillor Hayden proposing an alternative motion, which we need to just pin down and get a second.
I'll read to the council receive and consider the contents of the report titled the council received the report titled.
Yeah, got that part, yeah.
Okay, and the council proceed with option 3 as per table 4 in the summary.
Option 3 of the summary table in the report.
And that
All works should be completed by the 29th of February 2024.
it will be open for 3 days of the week.
And that it will
Be open for 3 days. of the week. Option 3 is on page 231. It's basically replace the infrastructure.
Yes.
If I may, through Chair, just would like to note that considering we don't actually have a design for this, I'm just not sure if we can actually, by 29th of February, we have to actually develop a project plan and work out the timing, but.
We'll put the date in, but if you can't, if it's not, so come back for future council meeting and do that. I'll give you an extra day because it's a week here.
Thanks for the consideration.
231.
Was there a second though?
Sorry, Councillor Hodge moving and the seconder.
No, councillor Hayden
Hayden
moving.
moving.
Sorry, Councillor Hayden and seconded Councillor Hodge, sorry.
Is that correct in it?
Okay, councillors, we've got a mover and a seconder of the motion that's on the screen. Anyone else wish to talk to this? Councillor
Okay,
Hayden?
so can I say something? So the waste transfer station in Mount Garnet can offer several benefits to the small community. Residents are able to contribute to efficient waste management and environmental sustainability, also contributing to the community's effort to minimise its environmental footprint. Proper waste management is essential for protecting public health and safety, reducing the risk of illegal dumping and exposure of hazardous materials. Mount Garnet Transfer Station can be managed efficiently with similar hours as Millamilla. So that's what I want to ask. So,
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. Any other councillors wish to comment? Councillor Felton.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I asked a question about the figures here shows that the project, as we're discussing, will cost $374,000. Am I right? As per.
So through the Chair, these are again concept costs based on no design whatsoever, but just very rough estimates.
Thank you. Well, my question is to the council staff through the CEO, is that what funds do we have currently available to undertake any works at the Mount Garnet Depot?
There's nothing allocated at this point, to my knowledge.
Through the Chair, there's no current
Just
capital.
have to come back as an amendment to the budget. Presumably, it's capital, Angus can capitalise. So it'd be an amendment to the capital budget, just pointing out what the final value, the time frame says, not to labour that, but depending on the final value, it's really difficult to get it to council before the caretaker period commences, any contracted to council before the caretaker period commences, depending on what the final value is. I'm not trying not to do it, I'm just pointing out the reality is that by the 27th or so of January, you won't be able to award that contract, possibly.
We'll go Councillor Hayden and Councillor Wilson.
So that's all good, and yet you place figures in front of us without anyone doing the design or anything for us to make a decision. And on top of that, isn't there a $700,000 saving with the new people who have been employed, JJ Richards? And this is an already facility that we just closed. There's nothing that we need. It's not a new facility, so to me, with the funds we've saved or not operating for over 12 months, surely there must be some sort of funds savings in the funds of the waste transfer station. I'm sorry.
If I may, through the chair, the request from the meeting, I think two meetings ago, was to provide options to consider the reopening of the transfer station. There was no request for us to develop a design and do detailed costing. Neither would we have been able to achieve that in the 2 months that was afforded to us. So that's why these are concept costs and concept solutions at this stage only. The savings through the outsourcing of the curbside collection are operational savings and are not in the capital budget. That doesn't mean that council is, I think, intending to have a capital budget review or a budget review in the next month. And we will ensure that we will reflect this dollar value, because we haven't got anything better in the budget revision proposal for your consideration.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Yeah, look, I'm going to use your word again. I'm disappointed that we're even talking about this again. We have debated this on several occasions. We all agreed that we had some hard decisions to make some time back. We made the decision that it was to be closed, and a couple of months later on, here we are talking about finding another $370,000 plus to replace the infrastructure and reopen it. I voted the first time to close it, and I argued the second time that we shouldn't be considering this at all. And we're here again today, and I'm going to be voting against it.
Councillor Lloyd.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. When we spoke about it the last meeting, when that resolution was approved to come back to this meeting, it was said that the infrastructure up there was not the fault of the people who live in the area of Mount Garnet. It was successive council's fault for a poor design and no maintenance being done. So it's not the people of Mount Garnet's fault, it's council's fault. And as I've said at that meeting, they're right at the western end, if you want to put it that way, southwestern end of the TRC. We're here, we have all the facilities what we need, and they hardly got any facilities out there. And I'll say again, it wasn't their fault that the infrastructure deteriorated. So that's, and the reason why I think Councillor Hayden and I in our discussions are looking at 3 is that I don't think we should repair the old one. It was had it anyway, and we might as well build a new one. It'll be built by renewables from the depreciation, and therefore it's brand new and should last for another 40, 50 years if it's designed properly and built correctly and maintained correctly.
Can I suggest we go to the vote? Councillor Hayden, you happy to go to the vote?
Yep.
Yeah. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Those in favour of the motion up on the screen. Those in favour. That's carried. Thank you. Can we just take a 5-minute break, folks? I just need to do a bathroom stop. Just adjourn that. Okay, very good. So 12.6, the Atherton Pistol Club order usage concession request. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move it on panel, please.
Okay, you might like to, has Jackie got that?
No, thank you. I was going to reread this one here.
in your hands, councillor Kaji. We'll get you to put up your alternative and see if we can get a seconder.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. That, I'd like to move that council provide the Atherton Pistol Club with 100% concession on the January 23 water meter reusing fee of $945.85. Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
So we've got a mover and a seconder for the one that's on the screen. Yes.
You voting for it, sorry?
Just correcting, so the 100% will actually be double that amount, so that'll be 1,891.70. Just so that the right amount is in there.
That amount was
1800,
50,
sorry.
that amount was 50% of the total.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Oh, I see, 900 is,
50%.
It's the wording.
Okay.
Wording. 100% should be 189.
189,170.
189.70.
Okay.
We'll just get the words right.
Apologies, councillors, that's wording slipped my mind.
Okay, councillor Kaji is moving this alternative motion. It's up on the screen. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hodge seconded. Councillor Kaji.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. The reason I'm going 100% is that if you look at the location of the water meter on the Lookout Road, and the pipe goes through, I think it's reserved land for quite a few metres before it gets to the property boundary of the Pistol Club. That terrain out there is extremely hilly, rocky and horrid. The club would have had no idea whatsoever that this pipe was leaking or otherwise. So it's happened twice. So our staff have recognised that's not an ideal situation and that they're going to amend that situation by relocating the meter and putting in a new line to the club. So given that this is totally outside their control, that's why I'm suggesting that we compensate them 100%.
Councillor Billin?
Yeah, through the chair, just want a bit of clarification, and I support what councillor Kaji is saying. The club's also paid a bill back $1,489.10, so would that be the catalyst for them to ask also for that to be refunded potentially?
So through the chair, so they had a bill in July 2023, which was for a total of $2,978.10. And they applied for a concession of that and the policy because it was within time frame and with the justification we applied a concession of $1,400. I can't foreshadow if they
No, I'm just highlighting
more again. But yeah.
the reasons why we're doing this one would be the same argument for the previous one, retrospectively. That's all I'm saying.
It is my understanding that it paid the remaining of the bill after concession.
Okay.
Yeah, I fully support the resolution. As you say, the pipe goes on our land, so the meters here, it's 140 metres, I think, on our land. Then it goes to their land. So leak was in our land on the reserve. So I'll leave it up to the operational side of it, of course, but maybe it's a good idea to put that meter on their boundary in the future.
Through the chair, that's important.
Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder for the motion that's on the screen. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We'll go to 12.7. Weaver Street renaming. Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Hodge is moving and Councillor Wilts seconding. Councillor Hodge?
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm glad this has come to council to have this problem that's been going on for years. What's happened is, as you'll see in the map, you've got 72 Weaver Street on one side and you've got over the road. What has happened in the past, an ambulance we'll say 72 schools from Amwood, but it's gone across the other side of the road, so it's so confusing. So I'm really happy that our officers are going to deal with this and get it fixed once and for all. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Wills?
Yeah, just very briefly through the chair, just in support of what Councillor Hodges said. Back when I worked here in the 80s as a police officer, that problem was, it existed, and it was only because we knew the identities of some of those people that lived there that the confusion didn't create extremely dangerous situation. So I fully endorse this.
Very good. Anyone else like to talk to this one? Those in favour? Carried. .8, Hall Road, Tolga, rural addressing changes. We have a mover of the officer's recommendation, Councillor Wilkes and Councillor Cardew. Councillor Wilkes.
And I'd just like to hand this over to our officer for a brief overview, please.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, through the chair. So it's come to our attention that the numbering as it proceeds along Hall Road goes backwards, probably not too dissimilar situation to Weaver Street. So the numbers at the end of Hall Road are less than those in the middle. So there's a number of options that we've proposed to consult with the affected landowners with, but our preferred one is that we just change the numbers at the end of Hall Road, that they be calculated from the true origin point of Hall Road and not from the mistaken origin point of Hall Road, so that should emergency services or anyone try and find their address, they'll actually get to the right place.
The actual distance address. Yeah. Indicated.
Very good. Anyone else like to talk to this one? Those in favour? Carried. That brings us to Community and Corporate Services. Item 13.1, Financial Report October 2023. Do I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Hodge and Councillor Vilney. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Statement of comprehensive income is roughly on track, so especially one of the good ones is the interest investment. It's really going really well. 97% increase on the budget, which is really pleasing. Other than that, the rates and charges, there's still 4.2 million outstanding, 2.4 million current. I'd just like to ask Erica, is that still coming in? Because it seems a little high.
So if I may, through the chair, so we are still processing normal debt recovery actions, and we've had reminder letters. We also do have a lot of payment plans in place, so people are actively working towards paying down their outstanding amounts, but it is progressing as we normally would, and we do have some good actions from the community.
Okay, thank you. Only one other question. I just wanted a question for notice. I don't really want an explanation today because I don't know if it's an order or it's an actual amount. And that's with Priority Management Australia Private Limited, $49,170 for working smart with Microsoft Outlook. It's seems to be excessive amount of money. Training in, well, I guess the new Outlook, I assume. Everyone sees that on their laptop. Microsoft is saying, you want to try with the new Outlook? But anyway, just a question on notice, so it can be answered at a further date.
I can provide some detail which might satisfy the financial chair. So it's approximately 40 people have signed up for training. So Outlook is a common tool that people use, but often one that we don't know how to use all that well. So it is quite good training. I've attended that myself. So with managers, it does help with time management. It's using the tools that we have well, the same way that we would do for a forklift license or chainsaw, those types of things. It's understand, helping us to use the tools that we have to the best of their ability. It helps us to manage our time and our workloads efficiently.
Significant investment, viewed more as an investment in productivity. It is how we drive our day-to-day business.
No, it's fine. I just hope that when I use it, I've only got some months to go, that it doesn't jump all over the place when I'm typing things.
Maybe
Training
sign
has
up
its
for some
limitations.
I need the training of it.
Training has limitations, councillor, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Councillor Vilman, yeah, through the chair. Again, this might be a question on notice as well. On page 268, I'm just interested, we've paid $29,436 for a flail arm mower. Would we consider or investigate how widely it would be used and whether it's something that we should be having in our own armoury as an implement?
Happy to provide an answer. Yes, that's definitely something we may consider in the future. So the flail mower this year is being used as a trial to see if we can reduce on our requirement to have separate slashes and boom slashes. And that trial is still ongoing, and we'll need to obviously compare our numbers and see if there's efficiency gains and cost savings from that, and if we also achieve the actual physical outcome on the roads that we want to achieve. Should the trial be successful and we consider using the flail mower more often, then maybe at the future when we look at replacing our slashes, we might consider replacing our slashes with machinery with those implements on. So it's a good suggestion. Thank you.
And more broadly, there's a separate internal audit project that will consider all of the plant we hire and whether or not there are items there that would be better considered for ownership in addition to that flail mower. So that's still being trialled.
Thank you. Councillors, any more questions on the financial report? Okay, those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. Item 13.2, adoption of the annual report 2022-2023. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge and Councillor Wilts. Councillor Hodge.
Thank you very much. Well, this is a requirement, I think, under regulation that we adopt the annual report every year. You see that well, actually the mayor and the CEO have to sign up on the financial side of it, which is good. But everything looks in good shape, so happy to move the annual report.
Just a couple of highlights, obviously. We've been working through the very tight schedule for Priors Creek that we mentioned earlier. That was worked through in the last financial year as well. Awarding very significant contracts for works for the water works at Ravensholme last financial year. So it's good to see that underway. It was a very large financial commitment from council to hopefully eliminate boil water notices, and in that area. In addition to that, operationally, we've been working through service reviews and taken on a very large workload. So just pass on my thanks to all staff involved in that process. We've done that. Certainly we've had some assistance from consultants, but the bulk of the actual collection of data and provision of the data to the consultants has been done by council staff under a lot of pressure, and again to meet those time frames. So thanks very much. And in the financial area, we've finished the year in pretty good shape. We've got a very healthy balance sheet. Operating statement for the year was good. And importantly, I think we've, as was mentioned at the last meeting, we don't have any historic matters outstanding with audit anymore. They've been cleaned up, so it's an excellent effort from our finance team, and again, one that's required significant dedication from that entire team to get that work done.
Very good. Thank you. Final call, councillors. Those in favour? Carried. That brings us to 13.3, Implementation of grant governance review recommendations. We have a mover of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Hodge. Councillor Bilney. Councillor Hodge.
Thank you very much. Before we go to Nicole, I'd just like to say, at the last meeting, we voted to leave this on the table. We workshopped it. I think everyone seems to be happy, I think. Only one question was about recurring grants, which has been sorted. So other than that, I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Bilney.
Through the chair, I agree with the policy as it now stands. I do have two hypotheticals I would like clarified if I can. Firstly, in the proposed policy document, how would reoccurring activities such as a temporary road closure for an annual street festival, which we're holding tonight, by the way, anyone wants to come in Malanga, how would that be dealt with? That's the first question. And the second one, if this is endorsed by council and the amount available is increased to $2,000, if a not-for-profit has already made a claim up to $1,000, for example, can they make an additional claim retrospectively for the additional?
Through the chair, thank you for those questions, Councillor Bellamy. So if I could place some context on the table around this, the element of the grant governance review is how to best support not-for-profit organisations operating within our community, as well as individuals through the grants or funds that we give out to support those activities. So the recommendation is to provide cash through the grants program for events and activities and establish a separate program as support for events. So your first question was around road closures, which is an element of an event. So through the sponsorship policy and guidelines is the framework for how any body within the community, Tablelands Regional Council, or external to Tablelands Regional Council, who want to deliver an in-region event, how they can get support from that, and that would be through a sponsorship approach. So our recommendation is that anybody who is delivering an event would apply for in-kind or cash support through sponsorship, through the sponsorship policy process, and that would be assessed by council on an annual basis. So everybody who's delivering an event put through the request if they're seeking a financial contribution by the 28th of February, so it can input into council's budget deliberations, because currently we have a finite budget for events, and this provides opportunity to grow our events portfolio. I'm acknowledging I'm talking a little bit to this, but the opportunity to provide clarity. So with respect to a road closure element, that would be a specific deliverable of an event deliverable, and what we would suggest is we wouldn't fund that particular component, we would fund through sponsorship support the overall event. So if your theoretical, which is actually a real event, being the event in Malanda today, they could put forward for sponsorship amount to deliver all components of their event, and how they then choose, if successful, for council to provide that sponsorship is entirely up to them for the management. So we want to make it easy for people to deliver events and say, you come to us, you're the expert in delivering this event, and align with these guidelines or maximum amounts. Council will make a decision, we will sponsor it, and what you then do to spend that sponsorship on the deliveries up to that organising committee or business. That was the first question. The second question was around recurrent funding with respect to the grant program. So our current grant program includes elements of in-kind contributions. That has now been clarified in our recently updated rates and charges concession policy. So not-for-profits can get up to $1,000 of concessions through that avenue. Previously, it excluded the opportunity to apply for a Tablelands Regional Council grant. That has been removed. So applying for a grant for any type of activity would be assessed against criteria. The desire of this council with respect to the workshop outcomes was for first in, best success approach as opposed to competitive funding rounds for community. So based on your question, if organisation A has already received a grant for a particular activity up to $1,000, then they would like to put in another application for up to a different project. They would be assessed under this new policy guideline of it's a standalone event, it's a project up to $2,000. So we haven't indicated as part of the policy position that a not-for-profit can only apply for one grant project, but what we have indicated is that they are not eligible for a future grant unless they have acquitted their existing grant. Does that provide that clarity?
Yep. So in this particular year, in theory, if they've acquitted $1,000 through the current policy,
yes,
we change the policy today,
yes,
they can come back for $2,000, up to $2,000.
Yes.
So a smart, community-minded organisation could get $3,000 this year if they fit the bill.
that is correct.
That's only this year.
Within the current budget allocation. So acknowledge that last financial year, council, and it's included in our annual report, we provided approximately $70,000, which also included NCI, and of that $10,000 went to youth achievement. So we have a finite budget, and therefore once the funds are expended, it would be a request to council at budget review time to provide more based on community need or future adaptations of our policy to transition potentially to competitive merit-based funding rounds if there is high demand for these grants.
Councillor Hodge.
Just on my reply, just to say to council is that this is a policy, so one would have to wait and see how it transitions into the next year, or next month, and in the next 6 months. So if it needs tinkering, we can do that. So,
Councillors, final call. Those in favour? Carried. That brings us to 13.4, road and so waste transfer station boundary regularisation. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hayden and Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Hayden.
Pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Kaji?
Yeah, could I just ask the officers if they have a brief saying their constituents there?
Thanks, Yvette. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question, Councillor Kaji. So upon analysis in terms of Council's compliance and also as a result of native title tenure analysis, we actually ascertained that the waste transfer station is built within the boundaries of the state forest, the Ravenshoe State Forest number 3. It's not actually within the boundaries of the local government reserve, which has been reserved to us as trustee for waste disposal purposes. So in order to regularise the tenure avenues, officers have been in consultation with the Department of Resources and also the Department of Environment and Science to ascertain how they would suggest that we progress to regularise the tenure issues.
Councillors, the final call. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 13.5, transfer of land to Aboriginal people. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hodge. Councillor Wilkes, seconding. Councillor Hodge.
thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I totally agree with the officer's recommendation. Is that council's view is that we will not relinquish the land for the the reasons that has been put in the report. The land is for reserves and whatever, so I totally agree with the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Wills? No. Councillors?
Happy with the recommendation.
Councillors, final call. Those in favour? Carried. So that brings us to notice of motions. Item 14.1, notice of motion, Councillor Clifton, advisory committees of council.
I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, that's the one up on the screen there.
Got to get the following words.
Preceding,
Yeah.
this should be following.
Yes. The word proceeding, Mr. Mayor, is the following should be, I did amend it, but it hadn't crept through.
Yes. Just like to keep us on your toes.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
All right, so we've got the motion up there on the screen, moved and seconded. Sorry, who seconded? Kevin. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is, in going through a number of the advisory committees, I just noticed that some of the advisory committees had terms of reference which reported to officers, and then officers would be required to, if in their judgment it was necessary, to then report to council. It seemed to me, and we've had a workshop subsequent, that advisory committees were after all advisory to council. And recently exampled at the NAMAC Advisory Committee, there was a frustration around the table that with the members of that committee, committed as they are, that they felt that some of their discussions had not been made available to council. So I resolved to put this through. As I said, we subsequently have had a workshop in relation to it and discussed it. So I think it's fairly obvious, discussed the need to change our policy. This change could be incorporated into our policy. But it really is the principle behind this to give those people who are members of the advisory committee the confidence that their views will be put forward and considered to council. It's no reflection upon any officers, it's just an untidy end, if I may say it that way. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Thank you. Councillors, anyone like to talk further on this one?
Just to comment, Mr. Mayor, that's the position that's now reflected in the redrafted policy that was workshopped earlier this week.
Very good. Those in favour? Carried. That brings us to 14.2. Notice of motion, Councillor Clifton, Warura Station Wind Farm. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I so move. Yep. Or do we need a?
We need a seconder.
Yeah. I can't second it.
No.
That's all right.
Yes, Councillor Cardew has it.
Yep. So we've got a mover and seconder for the motion that's on the screen. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The Warura Wind Farm is just on the verge of being approved or disapproved by, I think it's been approved by the state authorities.
Correct.
It's yet to be approved by the federal authorities, and that will be discussed with them in the next 2 weeks or the next couple of weeks, as I understand. The company, the Warura Wind Farm company, Arc Energy, had approached council and sought our support. I put this forward in that context. I don't believe the decision, in putting it forward, I propose that, I don't propose that we interfere with any of the environmental or accept or reject any of the environmental and other valid arguments that have been put forward by a whole variety of people. But I believe reading their document, which is contained with the as an attachment, that they could make a significant community contribution to that area. Not only they're talking about a community development fund of $500,000 a year in that region. They've committed themselves to that. There will be, if it goes ahead, there'll be a lot of work for local contractors, employment, etc., etc. So the terms of it are that we express support for the project, believe that the project provides valuable and significant development opportunities within the region, supports a significant social licence program, a broad term social licence, but that's the $500,000 per year initiative, encourages the approving authorities of both the federal and state, the state's now approved, to approve the project as soon as possible, and recommends that the approval process should include extensive discussions with the Tableland Regional Council as part of the social licence process. That discussion has been going on at a relatively informal level. We have not at this stage stated where we stand, but we are already a development-based council. We have development initiatives for various housing initiatives of that nature. We've undertaken significant steps to improve our industrial land in the Tolga area. It seems to me to naturally follow that we would want to do this. I also add that I have spoken to Arc Energy, the company, and I said, look, this, you know, is this in your interests or not in your interests? And they confirmed to me yesterday that it was in their interests to have this support, just as they approached the advanced Cairns, and they have their support as well. So I put the motion to.
Very good. Councillor Billman.
Through the chair, I want to reinforce my view that of local government neutrality in this instance. There's a few things. Balancing interests. Local governments are responsible for representing a diverse range of constituents who have varied opinions and interests. Taking a neutral stance allows them to balance the concerns of different groups, including those who may support or oppose wind farms. We have economic development. We do know that they create jobs, attract investment, provide revenue streams for local communities, and we have taxes and lease agreements. But remaining neutral allows local governments to explore these potential benefits without alienating any particular group. We have regulatory processes. We don't have a big part to play in the regulatory process apart from conditioning of roads, but by remaining neutral during this process, it ensures a fair and objective evaluation of the project based on environmental, economic and social considerations. It also avoids conflicts of interest where you have varying personal opinions on wind farms. By adopting a neutral stance, you can avoid those potential conflicts and making decisions based on merits rather than on personal biases. And then you've got community input. Remaining neutral allows them to facilitate discussions and gather input from residents without appearing biased in favour of or against wind farms. So for me, neutrality is the core to why the state and federal governments take the lead on these things, because they can be controversial and we need to be understanding of the full community.
Thanks, Councillor Billman. Councillor Wills.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, through the chair. I agree with the 5 dot points as indicated by Councillor Clifton, but for the first one, I don't believe it's our position just to support the project. I believe in the other four that yes, it is an economic driver and. But I have to be convinced that to express our support, which has to be a collective force for the project, because we do have our own views on these matters, and I do think that it could create a situation that down the track could lead to some form of embarrassment for council. But I agree with the other 4 points. Oh, yeah, the other 4.
Thanks, Councillor Wills. Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I will be supporting Councillor Clifton's motion. Yesterday I wasn't quite clear, but I think he has spoken to Mr Ruzzo, I think, who asked that they really would like our support. I do not intend to be known as a boundary rider, councillor. I take everything what I think is in the best of the whole community. I understand, you know, up in that area, some people are for it and against it, but I look at the whole community, just like I did with the rail trail, and so therefore I will be supporting it. As I said, I do not ever or never will be a boundary rider councillor, and I think we should be able to, if it gets support, it gets up. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Very good. Councillor Hayden.
Okay, so I actually don't support us writing this letter, or even supporting that, saying that we support the Wirral Station wind farm. So I'll tell you, technically the Wirral wind farm people haven't even let locals know the route they'll be taking. And so council even has not looked at the infrastructure that we will be looking after. And I think we have an example now of one wind farm opening up and still hasn't done the infrastructure that council required. And another thing, some of these wind turbines are only 1 kilometre away from World Heritage. So to me, it's not that all the animals stay inside the World Heritage area, they actually travel out. And this is a very contentious issue in Ravenshoe, and I'm afraid we need to step back and let the state and the federal look after it. So I won't be supporting any letter being written in support of the Wirral Station wind farm.
Thanks, Councillor Hayden. I might say a few words. I've been asked by a member of the Ravenshoe community to speak on her behalf, and like Councillor Hayden, she has serious concerns about council supporting this wind farm, largely on environmental matters. It's a catchment of the Great Barrier Reef. In particular, it's the Upper Herbert River catchment. It abuts the World Heritage Area. These towers are 250 metres. Their turbines are 250 metres high to the top of the blade. 42 of them in those highly sensitive areas is of great concern to the lady that's here today representing Ravenshoe. But I'll also say that just following on from my email yesterday to councillors, Council's position, whether it's for or against, will have no bearing on the Federal Environment Minister's decision. It's my view Council should not be endorsing a development prior to the Federal Minister's final determination. Council has not done any engagement with the community about this development. The community finds out that the wind farm is up for endorsement at today's OCM by reading it on our online agenda. Council's reputation with the Greater Ravenshoe community will be damaged, and and Councillor Hayden is right at the coalface in the Ravenshoe community, and Councillor Hayden and I have already been contacted by a number of people about today's motion with their concerns. So yeah, I won't be supporting the motion either. Councillor Carter.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I will be supporting the motion. I think whether we give a letter of support to this project or not, it's not going to have any influence on what the what the government's going to decide in the end. They have, it's already been approved by the state. They have enormous resources in environmental management and resources to assess this, to ensure that World Heritage rainforests and the like and everything else is protected. Far more experience and resources than what this council has or our community has. So, and given that, the governments, our governments are already pushing for renewable projects. They're pushing for zero emissions by 2050. You know, how else are we going to sustain life if we don't have these renewable plants in place? I mean, you're going to turn the power point on with the light switch on and no light can come on, you know? How are we going to achieve this without these renewable projects? Like I said, I'm sure that the state and federal government's environmental departments have voluntarily looked at this. As far as the community and consultation with the community, this has been in the newspapers for I don't know how long. So I don't accept the fact that we haven't consulted with the community. These people, the wind farm people themselves, have consulted enormously with the community. I mean, everyone's going to have different views. That's a given. So, and us giving a letter of support was something that I think would more than likely go ahead anyway. You know, we support them. Later on, you know, they're going to support us through, you know, grants and money towards sporting facilities in the community. Not to say, you know, what economic benefits the business community in that area can achieve, plus the employment opportunities that are going to arise. Not only, you know, for everyone, you know, our Indigenous population as well. So, giving a letter of support, to my mind, is neither here nor there. I think it's just the right thing to do.
Thanks, Councillor Clifton. I think it's back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Local Government Association conference in Gladstone a couple of weeks ago, and there was a side discussion there about resources and renewables, and it related to Commonwealth and state projects and the effect that those Commonwealth and state projects had upon the local community and the local government. And the one that's been in question, so I'm talking at a higher principle and policy level here, the one that was in question at the time was the small township of Glendon, which was in the original, next to the, I think, the Newlands coal mine. The coal mine was shutting down, and the terms and conditions that were negotiated 40 years ago when it was done was that town had to be eliminated. 100 perfectly good houses had to be destroyed to fulfil those conditions. And it raised the questions, and most of you will remember that there was a great campaign to have for the local authority to have a say in that decision. In the end, they did have a say. But round the table was discussion, considerable discussion, about how local government just can't sit there with its tail nowhere in these sorts of issues. They can't just sit there and wait, because they eventually get done, if I may use that phraseology. They eventually get done by not being involved. They don't get the roads they want. They don't get the input they want. They don't get the social licence they want. Unless they're active and involved, they get no recognition out of it. So in the wider sense of it, whilst some people in the local community at Ravenshoe and beyond may find it an offensive project, what about the rest of the contractors that exist in this council, in this council region, who might be part of, who will certainly be part of the work for a couple of years? We have to take those people into account as well. The matter of environment, the matter of whether it's appropriate, properly should rest with the local and state authorities. And as Councillor Cardewell said, you know, approving it does not mean approving an environmental disaster. Approving it means saying to the federal government and the state government, this fits within the ambit of our wider plan as a local government area that we want to see development. We leave the rest of the judgment up to you. I see that if we do want to see development, we have to say yes to that, just as if we and the fact that there will be some people unhappy is the cost that we as councillors have to bear if we take such a decision. I think we all recognise that. I don't think we just sit here and whether our tail is within our legs or whether it's stretched out or not, I don't know. I don't believe we can sit here and say nothing. They asked us for our help, a letter of support. I put forward that we should grant it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much. Those in favour of the motion up on the screen there?
Yeah, that's carried. Thanks. You can record the division, please, Jackie. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, we haven't got many more items. Are we happy to go through the agenda, or do you want to take a lunch break before we do the last three?
I'm happy to keep going.
Happy to finish it up? Yes. Okay. So councillors, before we go into confidential, I just would like to bring up business without notice and just update council on our recent, the CEO and myself visited Canberra last week on an advocacy trip. So on Tuesday we met with Senator Anita Green, Minister Christine Bain, who's local government and regional infrastructure, Minister Catherine King, who's she's got a very big portfolio, but infrastructure's one of the parts of her portfolio. And we also met Senator Anthony Chisholm, who's an assistant minister to Catherine King. But look, those meetings were focused on Priors Creek and water infrastructure. They were the two things that we discussed with them. We have a live application with Catherine King's department for Priors Creek. We're seeking $5 million in that application for Priors Creek. We expect to get advice on that in December. But we also spoke to the ministers and senators about the water infrastructure, about what we're currently doing up at Ravenside, about the other water infrastructure line of sight that we've got for Atherton and what's happening at Malanda, of course, and also for Yungaburra, all of the upgrades that we can see on our forward lens. But look, it was a very good opportunity to get face to face with ministers. We've since had some advice that the U10 road money has been confirmed. I think that decision was probably made before CEO and I got there, to be honest, but that's good news. We've also got some advice from the federal government in the last few days about roads to recovery and other roads funding programs that Mark would have more information on than myself off the top of my head. But yeah, just wanted to update councillors that we did that. It was very useful. CEO, what have I missed there?
Nothing, Mr Mayor, just to thank the member for Kennedy and his staff for escorting us around the halls of the Parliament. They managed to keep us from getting lost or locked up, or both. So it was good. It was a worthwhile trip and something that we need to continue to factor into our calendars and ensure that our places are down there. And it is best, I think, organised as we did with the state member, the federal member, at times when the Parliament's not being swamped with local governments through the ALGA conference or LGAQ conference in Brisbane. Our own time to go and just yeah, a little bit of time. It was interesting, I think, or encouraging that two of the meetings that we had were not scheduled as such, that it was that those senators became aware that we were there and took time to meet with us, which was excellent.
Very good, thanks. Any other business without notice, councillors? Councillor Hodge?
Just one small one, it's just a meeting, the inclusion committee during the week on Monday, is that the Year 3A, the University of Third Age, they have a lockable piece up here on the old primary school site, and they were just asking to make sure that the road gets fixed up there and that bollards are not put in place, because at time I've spoken to our officers and our officers said that bollards will not be put in place. So I just wanted to just bring that up, and I can speak to Mark at a later date over it.
Probably good, because I have to admit I missed the first part of your sentence, so I'm not sure what you're talking about, but we'll catch up after the meeting.
And just one other thing, Mr. Mayor, we have spoken about the planning committee meeting and there's no agenda items. I don't have a delegation to deal with that at the moment, but the meetings in December are the 7th and the 14th, and the 7th clashes with the Rock meeting. So unless there's strong, and the planning matter that is was proposed for the 7th can be lawfully dealt with on the 14th. So the council is in agreement. We have a motion that the planning committee meeting scheduled for the 7th of December be vacated. And I apologise for no report, but I'd overlooked the fact that it clashes with the Rock meeting.
No, I'm happy to move that. There's common sense, you know, have it all on the one day in December. So.
Yeah. So we've got a motion requesting that the meeting of the 7th of December be vacated, and we have our ordinary council meeting on the 14th of December.
We'll deal with the meetings then, the balance of this term, just to be in total.
The seconder?
Seconder is Councillor Clifton. So is that good? Is vacated. Is the 14th already in the schedule? Yes, it's already in. Okay, so all we need is to vacate the 7th. Okay, so we've got a mover and a seconder with that one that's on the screen. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. All right, could we have a mover to go into confidential? Councillor Wilts is moving that we go into confidential. A seconder. Councillor Cardew. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we'll reconvene. We'll go to item 16.1, transfer of aerodrome lease E on SP 287160. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Wilts and Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried. 16.2, Carinya Home for the Aged. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge and Councillor Wilts. Those in favour? Carried. And finally, 16.3, Land Restoration Fund Pilot Project Finalisation. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hodge and Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Carried.
Mr. Mayor, before you close the meeting, I need some guidance here, if I might. I perhaps should have raised it in business without notice, but there was discussion about assistance to the people affected by the fires recently and whether council could play a role in that. Is it appropriate to discuss that now?
I can just give you a brief update. Councillor, there's a recovery committee meeting scheduled for early next week. What's the date? A recovery committee meeting. At the moment, we're still gathering information and actively working with the Department of Communities, Queensland, the Reconstruction Authority and DAF to see what support is available. Still working through that process. And so when the recovery committee meets next week, we will have better information. We are actively supporting or working with at least 3 families that have been displaced, they've lost their homes, so we're continuing to work with and support those, but at this stage we don't have anything definitive to put in front of council in relation to what support is, financial support in particular, is available and how we might assist with that. So we will have that early next week, and should it be required, we would call a special meeting or whatever, should a decision of council be necessary. So still a few days away. And the other matter is still is in relation to Peterson Creek. Regardless, there are active discussions underway, and I don't want to prejudice those discussions, but we'll provide a report back to the December meeting, regardless of the state of that and the path forward. Thank you.
It's just on the flyers. I mean, I understand that we're doing what we can with the Queensland recovery people and to get systems in place, but that's not putting food in those cattle's mouth that was affected by the fires. Are there property owners up there with cattle or graziers that have been, they can't provide feed for their cattle? I mean, if there is, then we need to do something now, not next week.
Excuse me, the CEO of Minto, I'm sorry, they were there last week, they took one of the disaster team people out to these properties, and met with the property owners, and they've done everything they can, and the property owners are more than happy with what has happened and what the council has done. They know exactly what they have to do, and they're organised. It's rolling.
So I'm happy to have the conversation, but I think we'll close the meeting and we can continue the conversation. So we'll convene the meeting